Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most provocative ideas in Western philosophy, the notion that popular beliefs are rarely right. This isn't just about being contrarian for the sake of it. This is about understanding why Socrates and Plato, two of history's greatest thinkers, fundamentally questioned the wisdom of the crowd. Think about it. How many times have you heard someone say, "Well, everyone thinks this way," as if popularity makes something true? But does it? That's exactly what we're going to explore today through the lens of Socratic and Platonic philosophy. The problem with popular opinion. Let's start with a simple observation. In ancient Athens, the most advanced democracy of its time, the popular opinion voted to execute Socrates. The crowd believed he was corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods. History proved them catastrophically wrong. The man they killed became one of the most influential philosophers in human history. This wasn't just bad luck. Plato witnessed this injustice firsthand, and it shaped his entire philosophical outlook. He began to ask, if democracy and popular opinion can get something this important so wrong, what does that tell us about the reliability of mass belief? Popular beliefs emerge from what Plato called doxa, opinion or common belief. This stands in stark contrast to episteme, true knowledge based on reasoning and understanding. The masses operate on doxa. They inherit beliefs from culture, tradition, and emotion rather than careful reasoning. Consider how popular beliefs form. People absorb ideas from their parents, their peers, their social media feeds. They follow what's trending. They believe what feels comfortable or confirms what they already think. Very few people actually examine their beliefs critically. They simply accept what everyone around them accepts. Socrates and the examined life. This brings us to Socrates' famous declaration, "The unexamined life is not worth living." What did he mean by this? Socrates believed that most people sleepwalk through life, never questioning their assumptions, never testing their beliefs against reason. Socrates developed his famous method, the Socratic method, specifically to expose this problem. He would approach people in the marketplace who claimed to know important things. What is justice? What is courage? What is virtue? And through careful questioning, he would demonstrate that they didn't actually know what they claimed to know. Here's the crucial part. Socrates wasn't trying to humiliate people. He was trying to wake them up. He wanted them to recognize their own ignorance so they could begin the genuine pursuit of wisdom. As he famously said, "I know that I know nothing." This wasn't false modesty. It was the recognition that true wisdom begins with acknowledging what you don't know. The popular beliefs of his time said that success meant wealth, power, and reputation. Socrates challenged all of this. He argued that the only thing that truly matters is the condition of your soul, your character, your virtue, your understanding. He lived in poverty by choice, rejected political power, and ultimately accepted death rather than compromise his principles. Plato's theory of forms. Plato took his teacher's insights and built an entire metaphysical system around them. His theory of forms represents perhaps the most radical challenge to popular belief in Western philosophy. According to Plato, the physical world we perceive with our senses is not the real world. It's merely a shadow, an imperfect copy of the true reality, the world of forms. The forms are perfect, eternal, unchanging essences that exist beyond the physical realm. Let me give you an example. Think about circles. You've seen thousands of circles in your life, wheels, coins, plates. But have you ever seen a perfect circle? Of course not. Every physical circle has imperfections. Yet somehow, you recognize all of these imperfect circles as circles. How? Because, Plato argues, your soul has knowledge of the form of the circle, the perfect, ideal circle that exists in the realm of forms. This applies to everything, but especially to concepts like justice, beauty, goodness, and truth. The popular opinion might say, justice is whatever the laws say it is, or justice is what benefits the majority. But Plato would argue that there is a form of justice, a perfect, objective standard of what Justice truly is, and our earthly understanding of justice is just a pale reflection of this eternal truth. The masses can't perceive these forms. They're trapped in what Plato called the world of becoming, the constantly changing physical world of opinion and sensation. Only through philosophy, through rigorous training of the mind, can one glimpse the world of being, the eternal realm of forms where true knowledge resides. The allegory of the cave. Plato illustrated this brilliantly in his allegory of the cave, probably the most famous metaphor in all of philosophy. Picture prisoners chained in a cave since birth, facing a wall. Behind them burns a fire, and between the fire and the prisoners, people carry objects that cast shadows on the wall. The prisoners, having never seen anything else, believe these shadows are reality. This is the human condition. According to Plato, we are all prisoners in the cave, mistaking shadows for reality. Popular beliefs are just arguments about which shadows are prettier or more important. The masses are debating shadows, while the philosopher seeks to break free from the chains and see the real objects, the fire, and ultimately the sun itself, representing the form of the good, the highest truth. But here's the tragic part of the allegory. When a prisoner breaks free and returns to tell the others about the real world, they don't believe him. They think he's crazy. They might even kill him for challenging their understanding of reality. Sound familiar? That's exactly what happened to Socrates. The philosopher who perceives higher truths appears foolish to those who only know the shadows. Popular opinion ridicules what it cannot understand. This is why Plato concluded that popular beliefs are not just occasionally wrong. They're systematically unreliable, because they're based on the shadows rather than reality. The Philosopher King, 1130 to 1330. This led Plato to his controversial political conclusion in the Republic. Democracy is fundamentally flawed, and the ideal state should be ruled by philosopher kings, those who have broken free from the cave and perceive the forms, especially the form of the good. Now, this sounds deeply undemocratic to modern ears, and many philosophers have criticized this aspect of Plato's thought. But try to understand his reasoning. If popular opinion is unreliable, if the masses are trapped in the cave arguing about shadows, why would you want them making crucial decisions about justice, law, and governance? Plato wasn't advocating for tyranny. His philosopher kings wouldn't rule for personal gain. They would have to undergo decades of training in mathematics, philosophy, and dialectics. They would need to prove their character and wisdom. And crucially, they wouldn't want to rule. They would do so out of duty, preferring to spend their time in philosophical contemplation. Whether or not you agree with Plato's political solution, his diagnosis remains provocative. Societies based purely on popular opinion are unstable because they're built on a foundation of unreliable beliefs. Modern applications, 1330 to 1530. Now you might be thinking, this is all ancient philosophy. Does it really apply today? Absolutely. In fact, it might be more relevant now than ever. Think about how information spreads in the age of social media. Popular beliefs can go viral overnight, often with no basis in fact. Misinformation spreads faster than truth because it's more emotionally engaging. People believe things because they're popular, because their friends believe them, because they align with their tribal identity. The Socratic method, the practice of questioning assumptions and demanding logical consistency, is desperately needed in our age of echo chambers and confirmation bias. We need to examine our beliefs, especially the ones that feel most obvious, the ones that everyone knows are true. Plato's distinction between knowledge and opinion reminds us that truth isn't democratic. The number of people who believe something has no bearing on whether it's actually true. 1 billion people believing a falsehood doesn't transform it into truth. This doesn't mean we should reject democracy or popular input entirely, but it does mean we should be skeptical of arguments that rely solely on popularity or consensus. Everyone thinks this is not evidence that something is right. It might even be evidence that it's wrong. Conclusion, 1530 to 1700 hours. So what's the takeaway from all this Socratic and Platonic wisdom? First, examine your beliefs. Don't just accept what's popular or comfortable. Ask yourself, do I actually know this? Or do I just believe it because others do? Second, recognize that truth requires effort. It's not found by scrolling through social media or absorbing cultural assumptions. It requires careful reasoning, honest self-examination, and the courage to question even your most cherished beliefs. Third, be humble about the limits of your knowledge. Like Socrates, recognize that true wisdom begins with acknowledging what you don't know. The person who admits ignorance is wiser than the person who mistakes opinion for knowledge. And finally, don't be surprised when truth is unpopular. The philosopher returning to the cave has always been met with resistance. That doesn't make the truth any less true. Popular beliefs are rarely right not because people are stupid, but because truth is hard to find. It requires more than just following the crowd. It requires the courage to think for yourself, to question everything, and to pursue wisdom wherever it leads, even if you have to walk that path alone. Thanks for watching. If this video made you question something you previously took for granted, then it's done its job. Let me know in the comments what popular belief you think most deserves Socratic questioning. And remember, the unexamined life is not worth living. See you in the next video.